Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Leadership 30, and it's going to be a good one, I'm sure. As you know, Leadership 30s are our opportunity to invite someone to come along, tell their stories, tell their thoughts and opinions on all things leadership and a bit about it themselves and about how they got to where they are now and what they hold as important lessons. Our guest today is Chris Workman. Chris is a chief of police for the Cheswold Police Department in Delaware in the USA. And he's been a cop for over 23 years, but also a first responder for 30 plus years. If you've seen the bio in the newsletter and such, you would know that Chris holds a number of academic qualifications, and he's currently undergoing his Masters in Administration of Justice. But it's perhaps where he's more widely known, apart from his work as a police officer, he's highly regarded as a very strong advocate for open dialogue and mental health. And he believes in the importance of helping people deal with what they have to deal with and breaking the stigma of people seeking help. He's on a heap of local, state and federal boards and committees. He's a podcaster. If you look at the Deep Blue project on podcast, you can see what work Chris does in that regard. He's also a published author, and he's just got such a passion for not only the work he does, but helping others, but also examining what leadership's all about. So it's a really great opportunity we have today. And I'm like everyone else, Chris, I'm going to sit back now and listen to what you have to say. And I just say to everyone, just add to the chats on the side there. If you have a comment, add it in. If you have a question that you want to ask Chris, chuck it in there, or better still, come online at the end and ask it yourself, or I'll ask it for you. But Chris Workman, thanks very much for being here today, and thanks very much for sharing what you're going to share. So, Chris, it's over to you.
Oh, well, thank you, Geoff. I mean, for this great opportunity to kick off the Leadership 30 series for 2026. I mean, 2025 had some great episodes. I mean, once we got to meet each other and I got a chance to be part of the Leadership 30 and see some of the Leadership 60 things that have gone on, it's been great for me and to see a lot of this and listen to a lot of the people who are actually, on today. So I just hope that I can bring a little bit of that to today's conversation. I mean, you said a lot about me. I do a lot of things. A lot of them things have just come naturally. Quite honestly, it sounds like a lot, but it's not. I mean, time is something that I have learned to manage very well, and we'll kind of get into that because it kind of has something to do with today's topic and how I kind of came to this topic. I'll say I have a bit of a hard act to follow as 2025 ended. I mean, with Amazing Leadership 30 with Georgia May. I mean, that was awesome. I'm still like, I got the jitters. I'm like, I don't think I can follow up on that. But if you know when you got a chance to catch that, I would tell anyone, and I have told everyone that they need to catch that episode because that was very good among some of the others. So I'm very excited and honored, Geoff, that you asked me to be part of the Leadership 30. And when we're talking about the topic um, that we're talking about, I had just put out a post on leadership, which Geoff had seen, and I didn't know what we were going to do, but it kind of fell right into this, which was very nice. Um, and the fact that I had to learn over the years that I had to stop treating leadership in my world as checkers and start treating it more like chess. Um, you would say, well, what does that mean? So if I had to think how I would explain it, um, as they say, tell me if I said this right, Geoff. I'll give it a burrow. So let me start with something I think everyone here has felt at some point, even if we didn't have the words for it at that time. Um, like there's a moment in leadership when you look around your organization and everything appears to be solid on the surface. You know, your policies are in place, your training records are up to date, the schedules are covered, no major crisis on the horizon. And if someone walked in from outside, they would say, hey, this agency is doing great. But then you start noticing small little things. Conversations get shorter. Good officers stop volunteering ideas. The squad room gets quieter, not because people are focused, but because they're guarded. And nobody can point at one major incident that might have caused that. It's just kind of like a slow drift. So I remember standing in the hallway after a shift change a few years ago. And as officers were heading out the door after the day, strong people, like dedicated professionals, people that I would, go to bat for and been with for a very long time, the kind of men and women that any leader would be proud to serve besides. And one of them stopped and said something that stuck with me to this day. And he said, "Hey, Chief, we're good, but we just don't feel like anyone's really listening anymore." Now, here's the hard part. I mean, from a leadership perspective, we were doing things we thought we were supposed to do. We had wellness initiatives, we had training blocks, we had policies designed to protect people. And on paper, we were checking every box. But culture doesn't live on paper. And wellness isn't something you schedule once a year and call complete. So when I realized in that moment was nothing had collapsed overnight. Like there wasn't one bad decision or one bad incident or one dramatic failure that caused all this. It was an accumulation of small moves. And we were responding to problems as they appeared. So shift coverage, calls for service, policy updates, liability concerns, the everyday things. But we weren't always thinking about what those responses were teaching our people long term. So every rushed conversation or every time we prioritized efficiency over connection, and every time we said, and I'm sure you all have thought of this at one time, we'll get to that later. Move by move, the culture started to tighten. So it wasn't out of malice, it was out of momentum. And that's when it hit me that we weren't failing because we didn't care about wellness. We were failing because we treated leadership like checkers. We were focusing on the next move, the next requirement, the next box to be checked, instead of thinking like chess players who understand that the real game is about positioning people for the long run. Because a lot of the things, as Geoff had said, I'm real key on wellness. And when this kind of came up with this thought, because officer wellness isn't just about resources, people wellness, and I say officer, but it doesn't matter what you're in, even general wellness of your people isn't just about resources, it's about trust. It's about whether people believe that leadership is playing the long game with them or they're just trying to get through the next day. I mean, that realization changed the way I approach leadership conversations. And what got me here today is I forced me to stop asking, did we do enough today? And started me asking, what are we building for the people who will still be here 5 years from now? And that's what I want to talk about today. Why leadership cannot be a box checking exercise. Why culture drifts when leaders focus only on the immediate move. And why, if we truly care about wellness, resilience, and longevity of the people we lead, we have to start playing chess and not checkers. Now, most people understand checkers, right? The rules are simple. The object's easy. It's clear. You look at the board and you react to what's right in front of you. You try to win the next exchange. It's usually a fast game. It's reactive. And honestly, it feels productive because every move gives you immediate feedback. You're either moving towards jumping a player, you're either kinging or knighting someone so they can go back. Like chess is very different. Chess requires patience. It requires discipline. It requires the ability to sit in uncertainty and think several moves ahead. Even when you don't know exactly how the board is going to change, and that is where leadership lives. So leadership is not checkers. Leadership is chess. But if we're honest with ourselves, a lot of the modern leadership has drifted towards checkers. And we focus on policies and deadlines, compliance reports, and measurable outputs and data. We attend the meeting, we send the email, we conduct the training, and then we tell ourselves, good job, we're done for today. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most leaders are not intentionally cutting corners. Most leaders deeply care. The problem isn't lack of effort. The problem is that organizations have trained leaders to believe that checking the box equals solving the problem. And it doesn't. So compliance is not culture. Activity is not progress. And completion is not transformation. You can have a perfectly written policy, but still have a broken organization. You can run mandatory training and still have people that feel unsupported. And you can launch initiatives that look great on paper, but never take root in the day-to-day reality of the people that you have working for you. Because leadership isn't a task. It's a long-term process. So if we look at it, we all as leaders, we don't wake up intending to lead poorly. In fact, most of us work pretty darn hard, if I do say so myself, when the day starts, as the day's starting for you guys today. I mean, we respond to emails, we manage crisis, we attend meetings, we create policies, and we send people to training. And somewhere along the way, we start to believe that that equals progress. So I want you to think about something as we're speaking, and think about how many times have you heard phrases like this? We have a policy for that. We completed the training. We met the requirements. Those statements sound responsible. They sound organized and they sound like leadership. But sometimes they're just evidence that we've learned how to survive audits and not how to build people. Box checking leadership gives your organizations a sense of security because it's measurable. You can prove it exists. You can defend it legally. And you can point to documentation and say, look, we did our part. It's all right here. You can see the records we have. But leadership isn't about protecting yourself from criticism. Leadership is about preparing people for challenges you cannot predict. The danger of box checking leadership is that it creates an illusion of progress. It convinces us as leaders that motion equals movement forward. And the reality is this: you can be incredibly busy and still be strategically stuck in one spot. So chess leaders understand that not every move is about immediate gain. Sometimes the strongest move on the board looks very quiet. It looks slow. Sometimes it doesn't produce an instant result. But over time, it positions the entire organization, everyone in the organization, for stability and growth. So, I mean, let's break that down into simple terms. Checkers leadership reacts to what's directly in front of them. Again, as we talked about earlier, prioritizes immediate wins, moves one piece at a time. It's fully considering how those moves affects the rest of the board. In checkers, every piece is basically the same. If you lose one, you replace it with another. But chess leadership is different. And when you start thinking about the actual game of chess, Chess leaders recognize that every person in the organization carries a different level of influence, skill, and responsibility, much like pieces on a chessboard. They understand that moving one piece changes the dynamics of the entire board. So checkers leadership may ask, if you think about it, what do we need to finish today? While chess leadership would ask, what does this decision create 6 months from now? Checkers leadership celebrates completion. Yay, did a great job, done for today, good. But chess leaders begin to evaluate the outcome of what that completion means. What is the long game? And this matters deeply in leadership environments where stakes are very high, because the second and third order affects the decisions, affecting of decisions are often more important than the immediate result. So when you implement policy, what message does it send about trust? When you discipline someone publicly, what message does it send about psychological safety? And when you talk about wellness, but never model vulnerability, what message does it send about your authenticity? Chess leaders think about those layers before they make a move. So one of the biggest misunderstandings, if we think of it in that vein, about leadership is the idea that it happens during just big moments, during strategic planning sessions or annual trainings or crisis events, when things are just out of whack. But leadership isn't episodic. Leadership is cumulative. It's built in the small moments that seemed insignificant at the time they happened. The way you responded to a mistake, the way you follow up a conversation, or the way you reinforce expectations without humiliating someone. Culture does not change overnight, but it can erode it overnight. People don't just listen to what you say as a leader, they watch what you tolerate. Let me say that one more time if you think about it. People don't listen to what leaders say. They watch what leaders tolerate. It's kind of like a child, if you think about it, testing the waters. You can stand in front of a room and talk about integrity, resilience, and accountability. But if your daily behavior contradicts those values, people will believe what they see and not what they hear. And this is where long-term leadership comes into play. Chess leaders know the board never resets. Every interaction builds momentum, either toward trust or toward skepticism. So you're trying to understand where this comes from is going chess to checkers. I'm hoping that as we go along, it's making more sense to where that's how that mindset changes, that you're not looking for a quick result. And I got to say that I did that. I mean, in the beginning of my leadership journey and when I first became a leader, I had bad leaders in front of me. So that's what I learned. You dealt with things at the time. You never looked at the long game. And I found how bad that was in the way that things that I was doing. And it was causing even more strife than it was causing us to be together. Like, you think that handling everything, everybody's like, yeah, good job. You took care of it right away. But you don't realize until you start thinking about it how that's going to affect everyone in the long run. So playing chess as a leader means shifting your mindset from short-term control, which is what we kind of look for in the beginning because it's just what we were taught, to long-term development. It means recognizing that leadership is not about being right at that moment. It's about building an environment where people can succeed without constant oversight. Something we're tough at. I was bad at it. I was awful at it. And that requires patience and it requires consistency. And that's tough for leaders. That's tough. Let's face it. We have egos the size of, tall buildings. I mean, when we get this job, we think we know it all, and because that's how we got here. It's not quite that, and it's not, and we might not really feel that way in the long run, but that's kind of how we start out, if you think about it. And sometimes it requires resisting the urge to solve every problem immediately, because if you think about it, when we rush to fix everything ourselves, it unintentionally teaches people to wait instead of grow. Because if they wait, we're just going to do it anyway. And they don't have to take care of it because they know sooner or later, how many of you have thought about this? It's not getting done, so you step in and you take care of it. Well, some of that is by design by your people because they know you're going to do that, and they learn that through what you do. But that's why chess leaders have to change this mindset, because chess leaders don't just make decisions, they build decision makers. They don't just enforce standards, they cultivate ownership. And they don't just focus on performance, they invest in sustainability. And that's how they build their group and their people and look further down the line. Because now that, if you think about it, that starts changing that mindset. Instead of waiting for you, they are beginning to know that they can make these decisions and they have the ability to do so, and they're given permission. And we'll talk about permission. It's a big deal. You know, in high pressure professions, there's a natural tendency to rely on structure. And I understand that. We all do that. Policies matter. Training matters. Procedures don't matter. Or procedures matter. I'm not trying to say they don't. But structure without intention becomes very hollow. You cannot train resilience once a year, if you think about it, and expect it to appear when stress appears. You can't create a wellness program and expect people to trust if leadership doesn't show behavior that's designed and aligned with that. And you cannot talk about empowerment when you micromanage every little decision people are making. Box checking leadership focuses on compliance. Chess leadership focuses on capacity. And what do I mean by that? Its capacity is what determines whether an organization survives under pressure or collapses under it. You're giving your people more of a buy-in. So what does playing chess actually look like in daily leadership? And you know, we talk about this and you're going, well, what can I do now? What can I do today? So what does it look like? It looks like asking better questions is what I come to find out. Instead of asking questions like, did we complete the training? You ask, what changed because of the training? Instead of asking, was this within policy? You ask, what does this decision reinforce culturally within our organization and outside of our organization? Instead of asking, how do I fix a problem? You ask, how do I develop someone else to handle this the next time? Those questions have slowed me down. They slow leaders down. They slow us down. But they also deepen impact if you think about it. Because chess leadership isn't about moving faster. It's about moving smarter. So the hardest part of leadership is accepting that results of your work may not be visible immediately. We're talking about chess now. The culture you shape today, it might not emerge for years, depending on what you're doing. The leader you mentor today may outperform you tomorrow, which is okay. And that's the point. Because true leadership is not measured on how indispensable you are as a person. It's measured on how prepared others become because of you. Because you're not going to be there forever. If you're a true leader, you're looking to build that organization to succeed way beyond the time you're there. That's what's playing chess. And chess leaders understand that legacy is not built through control. It's built through developing others. Now, that's a lot in a short period of time. I get it. But some of the things that make sense to us, I have always felt if you peel out a little of those layers and you take something from it, it's leadership is not about surviving the audit or completing a checklist. It's about preparing people for the moments that you won't be there to manage. That's all it is. It's as simple as that. I think we put much more into it. Because if leadership was just about checking boxes, we could give it to anybody. Anybody can do that. If you're given a list, you can check off the list. But to be a true leader, it requires vision, it requires patience, and it requires the discipline to play chess. Especially when playing checkers would feel much easier at that moment. So, as you look back into your roles, I leave you with this question. Okay. Are you leading for the next move? Or are you leading for the end game? Because the leaders who leave with the greatest impact are not remembered for the boxes they checked. They're remembered for the culture that they built and the people they empowered along the way, long after they left the board. So before I close, I want to leave you with something very personal. After, more than almost 3 decades and as a first responder and in this profession, I've had the opportunity to sit in a lot of rooms, a lot of training rooms, command staff meetings, conference halls, lately a lot of webinars and things. And we spend a lot of time talking about strategy, police, and leadership models and all those important things. Some of the most important leadership moments I've ever experienced didn't happen in any of those rooms. They happened quietly. Sometimes they happened after a late night shift or in the hallway having a conversation that nobody else heard. It was just two of us. We're standing next to an officer who looked strong on the outside, but was carrying way more than anyone realized. When you hear them stories, they touch you. And if you don't open that up, it's an amazing thing when you do. Because I remember a conversation a few years ago, and one of those moments makes it into a report or a leadership book. They don't go in there. So an officer I respect and I've known for many years, he came up to me and wanted to talk to me, and he didn't ask for a policy, he didn't ask for a program, didn't ask for a day off, and he just said, I need to know that this job isn't going to cost me who I am. And that question stuck with me for a very long time and to this day. Because in that moment, I realized something that no leadership class has ever explained to me, that people don't measure leadership by how organized we are. They measure leadership by how safe they feel bringing their full self into this line of work. They watch whether we slow down long enough to see them. They watch whether we model balance or just preach it, which is kind of what I talked about earlier. They watch whether we build culture where strength includes being just a human being, not about the job. And that's when I really understood what playing chess as a leader meant. It meant realizing that every decision we make, every conversation, every reaction, and every priority either helps our people carry the weight of this profession or it adds more to it. You don't see that impact immediately. There's no metric for it. There's no checkbox for it. There's no annual report that captures it. But years later, you'll see it. You see it in the leader who steps forward with confidence because someone invested in them early. You see it in the officer who chooses to stay in the profession because they felt valued when it mattered most. And you see it in the culture that feels steady, not because it avoided hardship, but because leadership played the long game. And if I learned anything over this journey, my friends, it's this. People don't remember the boxes you checked. They remember the way you made them feel when the job got heavy. They remembered whether you led with patience when it would have been easier to react. And they remember whether you were in the building, something lasting, or just getting through the next shift. And that is the legacy part of leadership we don't talk about enough. Because one day, whether we're ready or not, somebody else will be standing where we stand right now. And the question won't be how efficient we were. The question will be, did we leave behind leaders or just policies? Did we build resilience or just compliance? And did we play checkers or did we play chess?
Wow.
Because the real measure of leadership isn't what happens when we hold the title. It's what continues to grow long after we're off the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. That was great. There's been some great comments on the side, Chris. It clearly resonated with everyone today. And as I said, mate, it has been a great start to the year with this first Leadership 30, and we look forward to many more. But thanks for kicking it off for the year. As I said, it clearly resonated with a lot of people. I'm sure when people see this, I will post it on LinkedIn and make it available for anyone else who wants it as well. Excuse me. But everyone, we've got a great leader next Leadership 32 with Tina Westrup. Tina Westrup with from City of Bunbury is back for her second Leadership 30, where we get to hear, like this morning, where Chris shared what he thought. We're going to hear Tina's thoughts again next month. So look forward to that. But everyone, have a great day. Thanks for making it a great day, a great start over here and coming to the end. Thanks for having a clock on the wall behind you, Chris. I could see how well it's tracking. That was great.
See the difference.
And I'll turn it off now, but thanks again on behalf of everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and much appreciated. And I look forward to the rest of the year with everyone. Thank you.